Right now, without thinking, you are doing something you have done roughly 20,000 times today. You are breathing. You do not plan it. You do not remember starting it. It simply happens. But here is what nobody ever told you. The way you are doing it is probably wrong. And it has been wrong for a very long time. Not wrong in a minor technical sense, wrong in a way that is quietly reshaping the bones of your face, flooding your bloodstream with signals your body was never designed to receive, and slowly eroding the quality of every hour you are alive. Lazod, the real story of your breath is not a wellness tip. It is one of the strangest evolutionary accidents in the history of the human species. To understand what happened, you have to go back. Way back. Your earliest ancestors breathed through noses designed for a very specific environment. They lived outdoors. They moved constantly. The air they pulled in was cool, rich with particulates, and delivered in long, slow, rhythmic pulls through nasal passages that were wide and structurally robust. Researcher John Douillard, who spent decades studying breath in athletic performance, found that ancient skeletal remains showed dramatically wider nasal cavities than modern humans. The nose was not a minor feature. It was a precision instrument. Here is what that instrument was actually doing. When air enters through your nose, something remarkable happens before it ever reaches your lungs. The nasal cavity filters particles as small as 0.5 microns. It warms the air to within 1 degree of your core body temperature. It humidifies that air to exactly 98% saturation. And critically, it produces a molecule called nitric oxide, which your lungs need to properly absorb oxygen. None of that happens through your mouth. Your mouth is for eating. It was never designed to be an airway. But then something changed. About 300,000 years ago, the human jaw began to shrink. Not quickly, barely perceptibly, but the trend was irreversible. Anthropologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard has studied this transformation in extraordinary detail. As humans shifted from diets of raw, tough, fibrous foods to softer cooked, processed foods, the jaw got less mechanical stress during development, and when bones do not get stressed, they do not grow. The jaw narrowed, the palate tightened, the nasal passages compressed from below. The airway got smaller, and it kept happening. With every generation that chewed less and cooked more, the bones responded. Teeth that once had room began crowding. The roof of the mouth, which forms the floor of the nasal cavity, began to arch upward into a narrow, vaulted shape. When that arch rises, the nasal passage above it collapses inward. The airway through your nose becomes a tunnel instead of a highway. Breathing through it starts to feel harder. And so, without meaning to, somewhere in childhood, you started breathing through your mouth. You probably still are. Right now. Partially. James Nestor, whose research into breath physiology became one of the most exhaustive modern investigations into the subject, found that an estimated 50% of people are chronic mouth breathers. Many of them do not know it. It happens at night, when you have no conscious control. It happens under stress, when your sympathetic nervous system takes over and opens your mouth to pull in air faster. It becomes a default. And once it becomes a default, the consequences compound. Here is what chronic mouth breathing actually does to your body. When you breathe through your mouth, you bypass every filtration and conditioning system your nose provides. You pull in air that is too cold, too dry, and unfiltered. Your lungs receive it without the nitric oxide that makes oxygen absorption efficient. As a result, you actually absorb less oxygen per breath, even though you are taking in more air. Your body compensates by breathing faster. Faster breathing raises carbon dioxide clearance. But here is the paradox that almost no one understands. Carbon dioxide is not just a waste gas. It is the trigger your blood uses to release oxygen to your tissues. Clear too much of it, and your cells actually starve even as your lungs fill. Researcher Konstantin Buteyko, a Ukrainian physician who spent the 1950s and 60s studying breathing pathology, called this the hidden suffocation. He found that the people who breathed the hardest, the most frequently, the most audibly, were often the ones whose tissues were the most oxygen deprived. The instinct to breathe more was making things worse. His work was largely dismissed in the West for decades. It is now the foundation of breathing interventions used by elite athletes, anxiety clinics, and sleep specialists worldwide. But the damage goes deeper than oxygen. Chronic mouth breathing activates your sympathetic nervous system. That is the threat response system, the one that evolved to handle predators, starvation, and physical danger. When you breathe through your mouth in short, shallow bursts, your body reads that pattern as a signal of emergency. Stress hormones rise, heart rate increases, digestion slows. Your immune system shifts into an inflammatory mode designed for short bursts of danger, not a lifetime of desk work and deadlines. You are, in the most literal biological sense, telling your body you are in danger every time you breathe wrong. Think about that. Every hour of every day, your breath is either sending a signal of safety or a signal of threat. And most people, without ever choosing it, are sending the wrong signal. Now here is where it gets strange. Because this is not just about how you breathe. It is about what breathing has done to the shape of your face. When children breathe through their mouths chronically, the developmental consequences are visible and permanent. The tongue, which should rest against the roof of the mouth and press the palate wide during nasal breathing, drops to the floor of the mouth during mouth breathing. Without that pressure, the palate narrows. The upper jaw grows down instead of forward. The midface flattens. Teeth crowd. The lower jaw recedes. The airway constricts further, and the cycle accelerates. Orthodontist and researcher Kevin Boyd has spent years mapping the divergence between pre-industrial skulls and modern ones. Pre-industrial skulls, virtually without exception, show wide palates, forward-grown faces, and straight teeth. Not because of genetics, because of how those people chewed and how they breathed. Modern skulls, in cultures that adopted soft, processed diets and mouth-breathing habits, show the opposite. The change happened too fast to be genetic drift. It is environmental. It is behavioral. It is the shape your face takes when you stop using it the way it was designed to be used. And now that shape is making it harder to breathe, which is making more people mouth breathe, which is narrowing more faces in the next generation. This is the loop no one told you about. But here is the part that matters most, the part that changes how you think about everything else. None of this is fixed. The mechanisms that created the problem are the same ones that can undo it. Bone is dynamic. Even adult bone remodels in response to pressure and habit. When mouth breathers are retrained to nasal breathe, even in adulthood, measurable changes occur. Airways open. Sleep quality improves. Anxiety markers drop. The nervous system shifts. The ancient breathing pattern is not gone. It is waiting. Slow down right now. Close your mouth. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 1. Out through your nose for 6. Do it twice. What you just felt, that slight loosening in your chest, that quiet that drops over your mind, that is not relaxation technique. That is your parasympathetic nervous system switching on. That is your body receiving the signal it has been waiting for since the last time you stopped rushing. Your ancestors did not have to think about this. Breathing correctly was simply what everyone did, because the jaw was wide, the nose was clear, the food was hard, and no one had invented a reason to sit still for 8 hours a day breathing shallowly into a screen. You live in a different world. Your body does not know that yet. It is still running the same systems, reading the same signals, responding to the same patterns it always has. And when you breathe through your mouth, it reads that pattern the same way it always has. Threat, danger, emergency. When you breathe through your nose, slowly, fully, it reads that pattern the same way too. Safe, calm, alive. Right now, without thinking, you are doing something you have done roughly 20,000 times today. You are breathing. The question is no longer whether you are doing it. The question is whether your body, after all this time, is finally getting the signal it was built to receive.